Hello, this is the tutorial for how to cheat and find super cool textures to use when you're making a MKW custom track. This is going to be super informal. I'm kind of just going to one-take this because I really CBA to do any editing. But let's just start off with what you're going to do. So, the first thing first, you're going to go here, download this. The link's right here. I might put it in the description. I probably won't remember because I'm too stupid to really do that. Yeah, go download this, okay? You don't need to worry about downloading the game or anything, just download this. That's all the programs you'll need, for the entirety of this. I'll just leave it here. For the entirety of this tutorial, that's all you're going to need to use, this software. So once you download it, you should just load it right up, and if your computer works, unlike mine right now, I don't know, there's been some weird update this morning that's, oh, there we go. I swear, this computer is not usually this bad. It's like a 5080. It's just really confusing. Okay, when you load into this, assuming you don't have the game installed, which I'm guessing, like, I'm probably the only person who, in our community would use this, then you would use this one, but if you don't, use this one over here. So everyone here should use this. Just go to the top one and select that. It will take a minute or two usually, but we're gonna load up an example really fast. I'm just gonna go to like a random old CT, I guess. I'm just gonna think really fast. Okay, so there's like 3 CTs I'm kind of working on: Celestial, Candy Mountains, and Caladay. But I haven't done like anything for Caladay. So let's like do Caladay. Let's go open up Caladay Desert right now in NoClip. So if I go to like, let's go here, boop boop. I'm just doing this so I can base it off some source material. You probably already know what Caladay Desert is. Why is my computer so slow? What's going on right now? Everything's been slow this morning. Even my other PC is slow, so this is confusing me. Okay, nice. So we have Caladay Desert here, okay? Caladay Desert is a desert, funny enough. It has some sort of stream, so it's, I mean, a bit oasis-y. Funny use of objects, I guess. Yeah. I also didn't realize this one's flown in too, but anyways. It's some sort of oasis, right? And again, this is slowly from like a texture POV here that we want to be thinking, but there's a few options that we can go for. So, the first things you want to do, even before using this probably, is figure out like where the hell you want to base it on in-game, right? Because there's like a lot of different areas in WoW. I don't know if you know this, but like, I can just even show you if we go. There are 126,000 models found. A lot of those don't have 3D data associated with it, but there's like 700,000 textures. Right, so it's clearly a lot, to the point where like you need to start narrowing it down. Now, you have two things, right? For starters, if I'm looking at this right here, if I'm looking at Caladay Desert, let me pull this back up. This reminds me like heavily of like Oldham. Oldham would definitely be like where I would go if I was doing this. Oldham has a lot of like old assets, but there's some other angles you can go for. I feel like Oldham's if you want to stay faithful to the idea of like a tropical sort of oasis. That's ULDUM, and I'll type this all later to show you. But yeah, I would go with Oldham. You could also go with like Sethrolis, and I can't actually remember the name of the region in Zandalar. There is a region to the northwest that's like all deserty. But anyways, you get the idea, right? You don't have any idea, I'm sure, what zones I'm talking about, right? I'm assuming no one watching this would. That's kind of like why you're watching this, right? So, what I would recommend if you're in those shoes, you could just literally Google like desert areas in WoW, right? Because you want to look for desert and like Badlands. Like Badlands, okay, yeah, Oldham right here, boom. Like this is what I would recommend. And you could look through all of these and figure out like which one would work best for you. Like for example, do you think Dragonblight would fit well here? Like, does this look like a desert to you? Like, not particularly, right? So there's some like really bad results, and you can get the same thing if you do ChatGPT, right? You'll get some bad results. You're gonna need to like manually filter that, or just like shoot me a DM. I'm happy to help with this type of stuff. Yeah, you're gonna want to like find a zone. Okay, and extra brownie points if you have like a specific thing in mind. Like here, there's like in this image, like obviously we're not using Dragonblight, but this is a ziggurat right here. This is the floating ziggurat. if you're like, wow, I really like the floating ziggurat, you could probably find the actual model for that and get a bunch of textures. And we'll get into why that's important in a minute, but anyways, we're gonna go to Oldham, because I think Oldham is like the safest bet here. Just to give you like a bit of a visual example here on like what Oldham looks like, it's stuff like this. Right, so we got like palms, we got some pyramids. I probably, like, something, again, this is like a modeling thing, but I would never ever want to leave a pyramid looking like, I think this looks disgusting. UVC like aside, right? This is just like really bad. So there's definitely gonna have to be like some gameplay sort of redone here. And I would want to restructure and remodel the pyramid, so I'd probably want textures like this to help rebuild the pyramid, but anyways, you get the idea. So, first things first, we're gonna want to grab Oldham textures, but how do you do that, right? Well, let's go and open up WoW Export. Okay, I would recommend starting off with models. You don't actually care about the model itself, it's just that the models will show you, like, how they use the textures together and combine them well, and it'll show you, like, how things are UV mapped, and it'll combine all the textures into one spot. Like, you could surely just go, like, to textures and type in, like, Oldham, right, and look, like, wow, 1,000 textures, right, and there's a bunch of, well, again, we'll get into this later, but there's, like, some maps, and there's just, like, a bunch of random shit, right, and this is not probably particularly helpful for any of you. So, best thing is always, especially if you're just starting off and you don't know what you're doing, just check the models. So here we go, Oldham. Okay, again, you're gonna click through these, you're gonna see, there's actually some kind of nice models, like this is kind of sweet, if you want to make like a basket or something, right? This could be like a nice little prop that you can make, right? This texture is solid, you get some vegetation here. You know, maybe you'd want to do something with this, right? But this isn't like probably what you're looking for when you're thinking about, wow, I want a bunch of textures for my course, right? So let's go and let's kind of discern some things. Let's look at the end of the file here. See, it's an M2 file. So WoW uses their own proprietary sort of model file types. M2, from what I can tell, is usually like for relatively small objects. Sometimes it can be large, right? But things like baskets or I guess a copper bowl or plate or a cage. Maybe these are M2s, right? I don't know what the hell a flagstone is supposed to be here. Here's an actual flag if you like that, right? But what you're actually going to want to look for is the WMOs. Like this right here, usually these are quite big. You can avoid the ones that say collision, right? But something like Oldham interior, like this is going to be a very large model. Yeah, okay. Boom. So is this what we're looking for? I mean, this looks maybe a bit too metallic. This is like if we're going for... You know, have you seen those, like, conspiracy theories? Or it's like the pyramids were generators type shit? Like, literally that. If you're trying to do that for your track, this would be perfect. Right? And it still has some solid textures here to use, but I think, personally, it's too metallic for what we're looking for. Let's go, like, Oldham entrance. Let's see if there's anything not super metallic. Like, these are solid stone. Like, this looks okay. Maybe this is what you're going for. Let's see. Yeah, so, like, these textures here. Maybe that's what you're going for, but again, it doesn't really look like a lot of that, it doesn't really look like the texture I'm trying to go for. Like, this is more, yeah, these textures are more like the types I'm trying to go for with the colors here. You can ignore, like, the rocks, but just, like, the actual building structure, right? So, let's just say, like, these are the textures that we like, okay? And you can see there's quite a few textures here, right down at the bottom. This is where you see your textures, by the way. So, first things first, always make sure you figure out which textures you want to have texture alpha and which ones you don't. There are a lot of textures in this that show texture alpha. So if I go to like this and I go to like, I don't know, like Nova or something, there's definitely going to be some sort of translucent. Yeah, see right here, if I toggle transparency, it makes obviously like, adds alpha to the selection, right? It's very important that you export properly. You can always go back and re-export, it's really not that big of a deal, but a lot of the times you'll load and you're like, why the hell isn't it transparent? It's because you're setting your export things wrong here, but oftentimes, keep in mind, if you leave this toggled, there are a lot of different times, I'm sure Connie would like tell me if I really cared to ask, but there are a bunch of different textures that are like super transparent for zero reason. So, unless there's like a specific reason for you to have a transparent texture, like I don't think anything here needs a transparent texture, right? This is all like, these would all be like CMPR materials, right? These would all be solid. So I would just like straight up export without texture alpha in this case. But if you're doing something with like a bunch of like glass or like effects or whatever, you're probably not. Anyways, we start off by exporting our OBJ. Okay, and it just does this thing up here. It says View and Explorer. We can click this, and this is what we get. And I'm sure you're gonna realize something. You're gonna be like, hey, Echo, where the fuck are the textures? Because they're not here, right? We don't have our textures here. This is just the OBJ and the material. And if you import this, you can get the actual model, but it won't have any fucking textures, right? And that's an issue. So to fix that, all you're gonna do is you're just gonna go to any texture that you want, right? Like let's say it's this one, right? Let's go to Tolvier corner block. Here it is. We're gonna export, view, and boom, look at that. We got a lot of the textures that have to do with this. Or it actually did export all of them. It just exported them to different folders. So you can even go back here if you want to check and go to like Oldham, right? And boom. I already exported some Oldham ones in the past, it looks like. But I mean, here you go. Here's your textures, right? I mean, this is pretty much all you would probably want. And again, a lot of these probably you wouldn't want to use, right? Like I could see like this being really good because you have like stairs, right? And you're probably gonna put stairs somewhere on your track. This is really solid for like a corner, right? If you wanted to have like a corner block or something, you could map that onto it. Whereas something maybe like, I don't know, let's look around, let's find something weird. Like you're probably not gonna use all of these, right? You might not want to use like this, for example. Like maybe this would be like really hard to use in like a wrap unless you had like a specific model in mind. And if that's the case, right, and there's like a pillar, for example, that uses this texture, and you're like, that pillar looks fucking sick, import the model. If you import the model and you have the textures in the same folder as that .mtl file, it'll load with the actual textures on it, and you can figure out exactly like how they're UV wrapping and stuff. So when you model your own, you can just base it exactly however the fuck they UV wrap it. It makes things 10 times easier because you don't have to like think nearly as hard about like, oh, you know, this should be here or there, or whatever. Anyways, that's how you get textures. Now I'm sure you probably noticed as well that they didn't all export to the same folder. Just go through and make sure that you get the ones you want. Sometimes it's a bit finicky, but you should be able to get mostly everything you need pretty easily, I would say. I don't know why it's not showing everything here, but anyways, that's the main thing I would say for that. Another like cool piece of information here, you're probably like, well, you know, something that's important about having a track like this is that we have sand, right? And as I'm sure you noticed, do you see sand here? No. Right, do you see sand in Oldham? No. Right, so you're like, huh, okay, we don't have sand. Where are we gonna get that? I would always recommend, if you're looking for any sort of, like, texture that involves off-road or just general, like, even road textures if you want to have, like, dirt or whatever, you just type in tileset over here, right? And these will give you, like, you can look at all these. They just give you like a ton of really usable, and I'll turn off transparency again. That's what I mean, see? Like sometimes random like non-transparent textures will be transparent and have alpha layers. But anyways, I mean, you can get like practically anything you want here. And this is probably a bit more like, you're probably gonna have to search a bit more, right? But if you go for Oldham, right, for example, I know Oldham like was redone in Cataclysm, which was the 3rd expansion in World of Warcraft, right? It went from Burning Crusade to Wrathful to Cataclysm. So I would just go and I'd look around Oldham right here. We got Rocky, we got crops, right? So if I wanted to like have crops, maybe I could do like some sort of animation where it's like let's imagine like, you know, the desert is barren and then over time it like evolves into become like a more grassy lush land, right? I can use like this as some sort of like animation texture. You know, there's like a ton of stuff here to be used. And if you want to go for sand, these are floor tiles. Let's go find sand. There's some hard sand. There's some really hard sand. There's some more sand. Sand, sand, sand. I bet if you keep going down here, there you go, here's your sand. This is the sand they use in Oldham. And this is like just all the stuff that they use around Oldham, right? If you want to do, again, that grassy thing, you got those right there that you can grab, right? And it's the same export thing as earlier, but again, you're searching this time in the textures tab. Oh, and there's some really nice sand. Look at that. Clovers, more grass. Yeah, using tileset is super, super helpful to, you know, really meet your goal. And I think that's pretty much all there is. There are some other, like, really sort of niche things. Like, if you're looking for specific structure of, like, mountains in game, for example, you can use the map thing here, and it's a bit it's a bit crazy. You can like copy specific sections and stuff and then import it and figure out exactly how to like shape stuff, but I don't think pretty much any of you all would need to do that. So again, just to recap, models and textures are really the two things that matter here at all. You're gonna want to go and figure out whatever model you want. Find the WMOs. WMOs will give you like the best chance of actually having something important. Like just a very large model, right? Even something like this right here would be great, right? Then you go, this is honestly probably better, I should have done this earlier. You export your OBJ, then you view it in the Explorer and you're like, oh wait, it's not here. You go to whatever texture in particular you want. Export. Boom. Now you have a shitload of textures, right? I'd recommend just like peeking around, making sure you get all of them, because they'll probably come to different places. If you see a bunch of black textures and you're like, why the hell did this happen? Make sure you don't have transparency toggled. If it's not transparent, make sure you do have it toggled. And if there's like some that are transparent and some that aren't, you can toggle them individually, right? And if you need any like specific tile sets or whatever, just make sure you type tile set in textures. And I think that's it. That's how to like be really, really good at modeling when you're not. It's to just find a bunch of really, really awesome textures for this program. Also, I don't know who made this, but yeah, shout out to them. I think that's it. Yeah, enjoy being like a really good Mario Kart Wii modder, I guess. I don't know.